My name is Njama. I haven't found it necessary or had a drink since July 19th, 2010. I, oh geez, I'm going to have to minimize this because I'm reading my transcription. That's better. Um, I'm really happy to be here to talk at this step discussion meeting, steps 1, 2, and 3, as far as I understand. And, I need to tell you folks a couple of things. The first thing I need to tell you is this is my first time at the 5D meeting. I didn't even know this meeting existed except in Dave W.'s imagination when he would talk about this imaginary meeting that he was chairing from 9:30 to 10:30. And so now I know it's real. The other thing that I want to mention is all of you new folks here, you're in the right place. I remember having 2 days, I remember having 3 days, I remember having 30 days. I remember getting my 90-day chip, my 3 months chip, and that was what my sponsor told me. My sponsor said, what comes after 90 days? 91 days, and so on and so forth. And that was advice that helped keep me sober at the time. What I've found in this program is I get what I need for the amount of sobriety I have. We go through this program, we read the big book, we do, step discussion meetings. We, listen to people speak about their experience, strength, and hope. And what's most important is even if our ass falls off, we don't take a drink. And if my head hits the pillow at the end of the day and I haven't taken a drink, that's a really good day for me. And I just happen to have had a shitload of good days so far. And I plan to keep doing that because it's working for me. Getting back to my early days, back when I was still drinking, and even before I started drinking, I was an alcoholic, right? I felt like nobody loved me. I was pissed at everyone. I felt like I was getting ganged up on. I was lonely. I thought that if I could get over on people, or if I could make myself feel better than the people around me, then that would be, then I would feel better about myself. And I spent a lot of time as a little kid, trying to do that. I grew up in California, on the streets of Santa Rosa, California, medium-sized city, skateboard, pot smoking kid, and I just wanted to be cool. And I really had that alcoholic tendency before I ever found booze. What alcohol was for me was the solution to that problem. It was the solution to me not feeling cool and not feeling a part of. As soon as I drank, I felt like I was a part of, I felt like I was cool, and I felt like things were going really good for me. And that worked. I was powerless back then. That's the second half of step 1 was just that feeling of powerlessness. I had it before I started drinking. I didn't have it when I was drinking because I felt great. And in between the times when I wasn't drinking, I felt powerless again. And what happened was after a long period of drinking, I was powerless over alcohol as well. My body decided that it would start craving alcohol like crazy as soon as I took a drink. And so for me, when I started drinking, it was impossible to stop until I either ran out of booze, passed out, was locked up, just ran into consequences that stopped my drinking for that 24 hours. But it would start all over again the next day. And that was what I was chasing. I was chasing that feeling of being powerful, and being in control. And the truth is that stopped working, but I kept drinking anyway. And after a while, I realized I couldn't stop even if I wanted to. So step 1 is really about being powerless over alcohol, It's about an unmanageable life. And I've heard a bunch of people say step one's the only step you have to do perfectly. And it's also the step that I have to do every morning when I get out of bed, because that step doesn't change for me. Today I'm just as powerless over alcohol as I was the first day I picked it up. And the big secret here, and what people miss pretty frequently, is um, today my life is just as unmanageable as it was that first day I picked up alcohol to fix that feeling of unmanageability. And the only difference is the work that I've done in the program with my sponsor, with my sponsees, with the contents of the big book, has given me the idea that somebody else is running my life now. So my life's unmanageable, and that's okay with me because I'm not the guy who's supposed to be managing it anyway. So I don't care where it's going. The only thing that I am in control of is my attitude about it. So I'm still on a runaway bus, but I'm just not grabbing onto the steering wheel trying to steer it some direction that it's not going to go. I'm sitting in the back seat reading a book, having a good time talking to my friends. That bus is still a runaway bus. And right now, the person driving it is God. And that's the result of going through the steps, in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's step one for me. Step two is, out of the big book, when you start reading the big book, that first chapter, Bill's story talks about kind of the powerlessness of alcoholism. And then the next three of them talk about step two. And, the reason there's three chapters in the big book devoted to step two is because it's a really important step. The idea that I can be restored to sanity, in order for me to understand the idea that I can be restored to sanity, I have to be willing to admit that I'm insane. And, I spent the first 5 or 6 years in Alcoholics Anonymous thinking that I was really a pretty sane, good guy, and I had a pretty good head on my shoulders. And, my big problem was that when I drank alcohol, I had this craving that I couldn't stop drinking. And then I did stupid stuff while I was drinking. And, when I started looking at my behavior stone cold sober, with no alcohol in me at all, my behavior during those times was also pretty freaking crazy. I was trying to cheat on my then girlfriend with two other girls. I had this rotation going, and I thought that was perfectly okay. I told my one of the girlfriends got pregnant, and I told her I didn't want to be the father to the child. And I stuck to that for quite a long time before I finally had a realization that I needed to step up. I was just doing crazy stuff, and I was doing crazy stuff stone cold sober. And after 5 or 6 years of that, I realized that I'm insane, and that also hasn't changed in my life. My solution today to my insanity is to ask God to remove my insanity, to ask God to restore my sanity to me. And I do that again every morning when I wake up. There's a little piece in the big book on chapter 86 or page 86 that talks about on awakening. And, it doesn't say on awakening after you go to the bathroom and feed your dog and, brush your teeth, do his stuff. It just says on awakening. And that's the way I take it. I wake up, I roll over, I grab my big book, which is next to me, open to that page. I put my glasses on because I'm old. I'm old in my body and I can't see. So I put my glasses on and I read that three paragraphs on awakening. And I go through and I say, what's my 24 hours look like? God, please remove self-serving, self-interested, or dishonest motives from my day. And that's the insanity, because I wake up thinking about what lies I'm going to tell today, right? So we need 3 chapters there to talk about the insanity, and then to also talk about the fact that I'm not going to have a happy, useful, productive, joyful sobriety without having God in my life. So I just want to mention that I'm going to talk a little bit about how God has affected me. And I'm going to rewind a little bit here. I know some people will probably be a little uncomfortable about this, but I grew up in a family of hippies that believed that um, uh, religion was for the masses. It was the opiate of the masses. It was for stupid people. And I was taught that if you were religious, you were an idiot and you didn't know what you're doing and you were contemptible. Religious people were contemptible in my family culture. And I grew up truly believing that the only person or power that I could depend on was myself. And I came into this program because my ass was falling off and I didn't have any better ideas. And there's actually like a step before the step in how it works. It says, what does it say? I don't want to get it wrong here. It says, if you've decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any lengths to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. So that's like the step before the steps, that you gotta decide that you're willing to go to any lengths to get it. And that's where I was at when I walked into my first meeting. I was willing to go to any lengths to get this thing. I was even willing to walk into a program that I was convinced was religious because my ass was falling off from a family of religion is for stupid people. That's how out of ideas I was at the time. And I stuck with the program. I'm somebody who's pretty stubborn, like a lot of alcoholics. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to kill myself trying to do it. And I did that with this program for many years. I came to this program. I called my sponsor. I worked the steps, to the best of my ability at the time. And I always took that kind of, oh God, good orderly direction. God of my understanding. Oh, it's the doorknob. It's the trees behind my house. That's God. The group of drunks. Or just spell it out, God, so you don't have to say that word. And what happened to me was sometime around, and I know I'm not talking about the second or third step right now, but sometime around the ninth step, I had a religious experience. And I had a God experience. I had an experience where God was sitting in the room with me, talking to me directly, telling me that he was there for me the whole time through all of this stuff that I had almost died when I was out there drinking. And I started taking a closer look at this program that I was doing, and I realized that the basis for this program is creating a deeper connection to God. If you read step 12, it says, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. So it's telling me that this is the only result of these steps, is to create a spiritual awakening, to create a complete shift in my idea and attitudes. And so, going into this program with, kind of a disbelief in God didn't even matter. What ended up happening was, when I had that experience in my ninth step, I went back and I said, well, what else can I get out of this? Because all of a sudden, I'm getting rocketed into the fourth dimension. All of a sudden, I'm making these connections in the book and then out in life that I wasn't making before. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to believe in this thing. And it's almost against my will, just like when I was drinking, except now it's not with bad results, it's with good results. So step 2, I have to believe that this power greater than myself is going to restore me to sanity. And what better way to do that than to look for evidence of it happening, right? So there's faith and there's belief. And faith is hoping that something will happen. And belief is knowing that something will happen because I've seen it happen before, right? So belief happens after faith. First, I have faith. I act in faith, And then I have belief because the results of my actions are shown to me to be accurate. And that's exactly what happened to me with step two. And what continues to happen with me is that I have faith that I'll be restored to sanity. I act in such a way that I am allowing my higher power to restore me sanity, allowing God to restore me to sanity. And then I see that I'm behaving in a sane way. Wow. So that creates a belief for me. And that just strengthens my faith that the rest of the steps will also work for me in the way that they talk about in the big book. So that brings me to step three. And step three for me is step three happens a couple times throughout this program, right? It happens here at step three, then it happens again in steps 6 and 7, right? 6 and 7 is like the expansion of step three. It's step three, 201 instead of 101. And then we do it again in step 11. We're again creating a deeper connection to God. But with step three is like a game in that I can spend my whole day playing this game with God, this step three game. And the way it goes is I go through the day and I try to do what I think God's will is for me. And typically, what that is listening for direction from other people, listening for direction quietly by myself if I don't have suggestions coming from other people, and thinking about how I can help other people as much as possible. So that's kind of the rules of the game. And then what I do is as I go through the day, I just listen to other people. I hear what they tell me to do. I do that thing, and then I try to figure out how I can be even more helpful to the people who aren't asking me to do stuff. That's step three. It's super simple. And it's just because I have this faith that God is speaking to me through other people. And in the silence, when I sit and listen quietly, that's called meditation. That's step 11 and step 6 and step 3. I get direction for what to do next. There's this great movie called Jeff Who Lives at Home. And I'd recommend you folks take a look at it. It's about this guy he's living in his mom's basement. He's smoking weed. He's drinking beers at 8 o'clock in the morning, just hanging out. A likable, nice guy, like we all are, just kind of doing his thing. And he gets a phone call, and it's like somebody telling him something random on the phone, but he just starts following directions, and he starts following directions without reservation. He just has complete blind faith that these directions that he's getting from all over the place, just hints and clues and everything around him, are going to take him to the right place. And it's a great parable for step three. He's just doing step three all day long, and the reward is there for him. It's a movie, of course, he gets a reward. But I can tell you folks that from my own personal experience, the reward in step three is deep and lasting. So I'll leave you with my experience around kind of this step 1, 2, and 3 thing. I felt like I had done 1, 2, and 3 by the time I showed up at my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I knew my ass was kicked. I knew I couldn't do anything about my life. My higher power at that point, the power greater than myself, was just getting my ass to an AA meeting. And I didn't know what was going to happen after that. I was turning it over. And so that was my step 3, was turning over my will and life to, God as I understood him. And at that point, it was the group of drunks. As time went by, that core piece of my sobriety has just gotten stronger and reinforced by all of the other experiences that I'm having here in AA, both through going through the big book, through working with my sponsees, through working with my sponsor. I have the same sponsor that I had when I walked into that first meeting 11 years ago. And we have this great relationship, and as I get to points in sobriety where I'm ready for more, my sponsor gives me more. He's not trying to shove it down my throat, because he knows that as I grow, I'm going to ask for more. So, I'd encourage you all to continue to do that with your sponsors. Don't let your sponsors just let you coast. Ask them for more because they've got it. If you've got a sponsor that's working their program, they'll have more for you as you're ready to take it. So I guess that's all I have. Thanks, everybody.